So welcome, everyone. Welcome to our Conversations with Masters on the topic of loving ourselves. This is part one of a three-part series about the topic of loving ourselves. Everyone on the call is an enlightened master who agrees to participate in this conversation, sharing their wisdom and experiences around this most important topic of loving ourselves. You can seek out most of these masters participating in this series. They all have unique gifts, and some offer their services as well. Please look them up so you may learn more about them. They're identified in the comments below. So in part one of this three-part series, we're going to discuss what it means to love ourselves and why this is important. In our other series on aging and atomic consciousness, it was mentioned several times how important self-love was to reframe how we experience aging. So this series is intended to help us look more at loving ourselves from a higher perspective as well. So let's get started. I can start by saying that I feel this topic is one that if there is a theme in our lives, this is probably a theme that maybe I have had in my human life, is learning to love myself. It's not something that's ever come easy to me, and it's still something that I'm evolving and looking at still from a higher perspective. And while I never actually loathe myself or hated myself, I just don't think that I love myself as much as I was capable of doing so or feeling worthy about. So as I said, it's something that I've been learning and I'm still learning. So I'm excited that this is what we're going to be talking about now with these other masters. So, all right, let's start by me asking you all, so why is it important to love ourselves and what does it mean to love ourselves?
If you don't, then you're relying on others doing it. And oftentimes that can lead to some disappointment because the way they love you may not necessarily be the way that you need to be loved. And that person also, if it's, we're just talking about one person, that person also, if you rely upon them, then you're dependent on that person continuing to do so. And that can lead to issues. So basically, you're the only one who's going to be with you from your first breath to your last. So the only human, embodied human that you can know will always be there for you is you. So you better get on board with you because you're in it, whether you're going to love yourself or loathe yourself or anywhere in between. So it's not always easy because we've been entrained to question and doubt and compare and have expectations of what it means to be a woman or a man or a father or a mother. But when we learn to accept the person that we are, the person that we are expanding into, that is a very important part of loving ourselves, because if you can't get to that part, it's harder to deal with maybe the deeper parts of ourselves that come up from time to time that we have to really dive into and so forth. So we need to strengthen that loving ourselves muscle, I'd say.
I really like what you said too about the first, if we're relying on other people. So if we're relying on other people for our love, what happens when they go away? We have no sense of love, right?
Right.
And there's no love left.
Yeah. Or they have nothing to give because they're drained and empty. And I mean, we have to do our own self-love so that we fill ourselves up so that we can offer it to others. So we're so full that it just emanates from us, and it's easy and effortless then.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it's really amazing. My experience was when I really started loving myself, it made it so much easier to love others because then you have no agenda, no strings when you're out there. It's incredibly powerful, and it's also really kind of sad in a lot of society, just especially people who want to be good, in religion and really want to be good, to say self-love it's like, wow, and I remember this is with my wife. I talked about, how important it was to have self-love. And she's like, don't say that. I don't like that term. Don't say that. And And I realized that it's been created to feel like self-love is selfish, that it's really the opposite in terms of its impact on the world than what is portrayed. When it's really, truly self-love, we are absolutely able to love with a depth and an unconditional nature to it that we wouldn't be able to otherwise.
Yeah, I like that, Troy. I know I was raised in a very religious household, and you weren't allowed to think you were special or love yourself or think yourself was all about everyone else. So you're right, from a very spiritual standpoint, where it seems like it's a much higher perspective to love ourselves. And then we're not dependent.
I always equate self-love with self-acceptance. Like unconditional love to me means very much a similar meaning as unconditional acceptance. And when we can love ourselves at that level, we're really there for humanity in a whole new way. We can be compassionate with others. We can bring love to any situation. We can raise into a higher perspective when we see something that we would want to judge. If we can come into this place of unconditional love and acceptance, we can bring that frequency to a situation and then allow for something beautiful to unfold from it. It's like we're holding the higher frequency. And for me personally, like I do have a practice of loving myself and speaking to my body, speaking to myself. And it seems like it makes each day, like, because I'll miss it sometimes. And there's a big difference in how I feel and how I interact in my day when I do take care of my practice and send my cells love. Like it shows up in all my relationships and in the way that I engage the world.
So give us an example.
Like just speaking to what's happening right now. My dad died a week ago, and and all of I have 3 brothers and 2 sisters, and we all came together, and we don't all have the same idea of what should happen next or what it looks like. But when I show up from that place of absolute love and acceptance, and our mom has Alzheimer's, dementia, she has dementia, and I show up from that place, I don't get caught into the stories and the desires, and instead the relations and the connections between my siblings feel really sweet and loving. I would even say that it's been more difficult with my mom, so she doesn't understand what's happening. She's very, very stubborn, and it really triggers me. I'm the oldest, and so I've spent a lot of extra time in my practice, and then I can come into the space with her, and she actually comes to me instead of with her stubbornness or her suspicions or whatever is going on. She's been coming to me after I have my practice in a very loving way and seeing me more, which is, that's been incredible to see those shifts. And it's just me stepping back enough to go, wait, I know where to go with this. Like, I need to do my self-love practice, and then it magnetizes that back into my life. Is that clear?
Yeah, I think that was really clear. So it's like almost like you and Troy are saying, it's reflected back to you. When you feel that self-love inside, you clearly get that reflected in all your relationships, even something as difficult as going through a death of your parent with your siblings in the best circumstances, that you're seeing that reflect back.
Well, it's interesting, as Troy and Blissa were speaking about this and the whole collection that you just encapsulated, this conversation started to come to the surface, I kind of was experiencing it at the same time from the standpoint of those of us who have gone through long periods of times, months, years, maybe even decades, dealing with the awareness of judgment that we impose on others. And, you know, we can work through a lot of it, and yet there's still triggers, whether it's your mom and you know, suspicions, as you alluded to, that won't be based in any sort of reality, but just are, you know, anyone could make those kind of claims and be a trigger. It doesn't have to be Alzheimer's necessarily, but those triggers that, you know, we still experience from time to time can be challenging. And what you guys kind of brought to my focus was how using self-love not only as a practice for those of us who don't have a consistent practice with it, which I will be taking note of for myself, that it's also a way to pull away from that resistance to those things that trigger us because we're trying to comprehend it somehow. It's not fitting in our world view, you know, and to let go of that figuring it out, which we know. But thank you, Blissa, for, you know, that beautiful example, because also having had a mom with Alzheimer's, you know, it's getting to the point of when you're within a disease such as that, where you're no longer trying to have them see your reality and what's happening, but you need to play within theirs and do what you need to do to kind of soothe and comfort and nurture and so forth. And what you did was far more nurturing and comforting and loving by focusing it on yourself, but at the same time, you're also focusing on all that is, which is what we all are, right? And that includes her, and she knew it. Some levels, she knew it, and she experienced it, and then you not only were able to see the reflection, but that was a manifestation of what you created.
So on the part 3 of the series, we're going to be talking a lot about sacred rituals and daily practice and so forth. So that's I'm really excited when we get that part. I just want our viewers to know, watching part 1, that we'll be talking about that. And so it's going to be, I think, really fun to hear what some different practices and rituals that we use, or that we've heard of, we're not using. I know, Deborah, I know you've written at least one book on self-love. You've written right? Haven't you written at least one book on loving yourself and worthiness and self-care? And
both books have chapters on self-love, and it's interesting for me because I think it goes in layers along with our level of consciousness, doesn't it? Because self-love in the beginning is basically following your heart, right? Because so many people are not doing what they want to be doing, and then you've got the boundaries, you know, and then there's different layers to self-love. And like Blissa just said, you know, the loving your body as well. I think that's really important, you know, like especially when you're putting your moisturizer on or in yoga or something, and not loving your body like, you know, aren't I gorgeous, but just loving your body because it's really serving you, you know, and really realizing that every part of it is doing wonders for you. So that kind of self-love, you know, is great. And but I just wanted to share something that was powerful for me this summer, because I feel like I took the self-love to another level. I did actually email Sarah about this because I mean, a lot of people are having adversity, right? But like Blissa, you know, I had a lot of grief as well this summer and a lot of adversity, and it's about how you navigate it, right, as a master. And I think, and two of you have mentioned, Sylvia and Sandy, you've already mentioned the human, you know, our human, and that's a very, you know, Sarah comment, isn't it, to talk about our human compared to, you know, we are.
And I'm just going to interrupt you real quick. So not everybody, so Sarah Landon, we've mentioned this in their series, but this is a person. So Sarah Landon, sarahlandon.com, she's part of a community that we're all belong to her community. So when we mention Sarah, that's who we're mentioning. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because she talks about human, and I think that's an amazing shift. I just want to share because it's been so powerful for me. You know, a lot of people will say, you know, oh, I've got a soul, or I was talking to my higher self. They'll say things like that, and it's like, no, 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 you are your higher self, you know, and you talk to your human. And to make that shift is massive. So what I did this summer was I realized we're human. We came here for a feeling experience. So I showed so much love and compassion to my human. I let her be really human, and she needed to cry. She needed to cry. She needed to fall to the floor. I wailed, you know, with the grief. I let the grief come up and out. You know, I didn't play this game of you know, oh, I've got to be positive, I've got to feel like this. No, because my human needed to express that human grief. And I let her. And I did it from, I think I did it like observing it. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It's kind of, and I just loved her so much while she went through what she had to go through. And that was a massive shift for me personally, and I just wanted to share that with you all. By the way, I love you all.
And we love you all. That is so great though, because that's right. Because loving ourselves doesn't mean, oh, we have to be perfect to love ourselves. We love ourselves. We are. And like last week, we were going to start this series. We were all going to meet a week ago, and I wasn't feeling well. So I had sent out, and a couple of people, so I'd sent out email urgently to everyone, oh, we're not. And it was interesting because the first response I got from you all was, well, what a great example of loving yourself. So loving yourself is accepting, like when you need to be, when you need to grieve, right? When you need to, just like that beautiful example you gave, Deborah. I think sometimes we're even judgmental about how we love ourselves. Or yeah, can I love myself if I'm being in my human, what may look ugly to other people sometimes, how we act? I don't know how else to explain that, but yeah, but we're still loving ourselves. We're loving all parts of ourselves, right?
Yeah. One aspect of self-love that's really powerful that I've seen is our ability, especially with people or people pleasers like I've been in my life. The people pleasing is the mode of really not saying who you are or what you want. It's kind of seeing where the flow is, seeing what others want, and then going with that. There's an incredible power though when with the self-love is to be able to speak your voice and say, hey, this is how I feel, knowing it might have rejection, it might have combat, whatever, but to be loving yourself enough to say, this is how I feel. This is what I believe about it. And it's really powerful when you do that and feel comfortable enough to say, it doesn't matter how they react. I accept how they react, but I love the person who expressed that feeling.
Wow. That just made me like feel really, I felt that really deep inside, Tori, when you said that, like really deep.
Yeah, that's a wonderful point. And so powerful.
Yeah.
And in fact, I don't think I fully appreciated having that kind of self-love until 2 years ago when I was in Hawaii for the first time. And I had a very powerful dream in which I was given a shark tooth. And I had a whole transformative experience about being able to speak my truth as the consequence of all that. And I started doing it in very different ways. And I was really stepping out. So it was also kind of empowering and, stepping out of your comfort zone. But I didn't regret it, even though it did, set a few little tremors here and there. But I thank you, Troy, for bringing that out, because it is a form of self-love to be able to value the messages that you receive, to be able to share them without suppressing them or editing them for your audience. So, great point.
And I know that you all, Deborah, you pointed out what Blissa said about love and body. I know, John, you had channeled something that you've shared with us, which has really blessed a lot of us being able to hear about loving your body. So even that, like, is not something probably had you not asked that question or thought about before, right? That is part of the whole experience. It's loving every part of yourself, the physical part. But you want to say something to us about that message? So I think that you've shared the whole message before with us, but about loving your body and how important that is.
Yeah, until I channeled that message, I didn't fully understand what it meant to love yourself and truly accepting and the damage that the criticism does when you criticize yourself. And when you love yourself, you really can let go of all those other thoughts and the lack, the limitation, the judgment, and love yourself and love everybody else and accept them for what they are too.
Mhm.
Yeah, like that reflection again. I think that's what we're going to talk about more in the part 2 of this series, is how we love ourselves. Obviously, I think we could spend all three parts of that just talking about it, and we'll touch on it, all of them. But yeah, it's how do you, because it's important that we realize how important it is for us to do that, not just for ourselves, but how we impact the rest of the world. But then knowing it in our head and sometimes knowing how to do it. I know I had asked you a question recently when part of the Sarah Landon community, she channels the council twice a month. And then they had a question and answer for us once. And I recently asked, well, I find it easier to love others than to love myself, because I think that's how we're brought up. That's how we're trained in the human experience, or at least in the past. So yeah, there's a lot to be said from going from where, yes, maybe I know it's important, maybe I don't know it's important, then how do we do it? But I think getting that message done, like you said, you didn't even realize maybe that you weren't loving yourself in that way, right?
That's correct. And having also the thoughts that loving yourself is being selfish and saying, oh, you're beautiful. It's not, it's not that. It's loving your heart, loving the love that's inside of you
Mhm.
and all of you, every aspect of you.
And it transforms us when we do. I know it transforms us.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It does.
I find a big thing for me for self-love is saying yes to things when I really would like to say no.
Oh.
My body is saying no, and yet my mouth is saying yes. And it's loving yourself enough to stand up for yourself and say no. And then with that comes, the self-judgment and the judgment of what will others think. So am I doing this coming from a place of judgment, or am I doing this coming from a place of love?
Yeah, which one actually feels so much better?
Yeah.
Because I'm with you, Sharon. I think we've all done that a lot.
Yeah.
And I know you're one thing, I've known Sharon for a while, and one thing Sharon's like really, really good at taking her time to go out and experience nature and be
Mhm.
grateful and love herself. And yeah,
Thank you, Sandy.
Yeah.
Sandy, when I received the invitation from you regarding this meeting,
Mhm.
and I said, well, what a wonderful topic. We are in December 2021. The Mother Earth is shifting to the fifth dimension. We are shifting to the fifth dimension. I said, what a wonderful topic, talking about love during this time. A week ago, exactly from today, in the morning, it was a Monday morning, I think it was December 6th, yes, December 6th. I wanted to channel some information
Mhm.
that I you during this meeting. And right after my meditation, I started my the channeling. I channel archangels, collectives, my altar collectives, and Palladians. But it was my first time that I channeled a soul who just committed suicide. That soul was there to share something with me about the love. If you do not mind, I can share with you that message.
Please, I was going to ask you if you didn't. Yes, please.
Thank you. It's very short, but it's very powerful. During the channeling, first I had the assumption that there are different souls talking to each other. And then I realized that soul is talking to himself, probably the higher self, right after committing the suicide. Main reason of reincarnation is lack of love. Imagine the last breath, you are out of your body. Where are you now? In heaven? Not yet. You began watching your life from the beginning, your childhood, your family, your friends, your spouse, your children, feeling everything. Watching your life from a different perspective. Pains, regrets, misunderstandings. Now you are an observer watching your life. What is missing here? What were you missing here? What had you been missing here for long? Very simple and magical answer to that. Love. Yes, I've been missing the love. Yes, I had been missing the love. Misunderstandings, regrets, judgments, comparisons. I wish I knew about the love. Now immediately, I wanna go back to my body. I wanna go back to my life. I miss my family. I miss my wife, my dad, my mother, my sisters, my brother, my friends, my house. I wanna go back. Please, somebody help me. I wanna go back. Please give me a chance. I will love everything. Love my family, friends, and most importantly, I promise I will love myself. Now I understand that love is magic, and the magic is love. With love, I can heal, fix anything. I promise I will love my body, my soul, my spirit, my higher self, and everything around me. Please, please let me go back. Yeah, that was the message. So I never thought that I was going to receive a lesson from a soul that who committed suicide about the love.
Wow. What a,
I was in tears when I was receiving it, in tears.
I
So
think
I just want to share with you that.
yeah, I think everyone here is in tears. That was so perfect.
I guess
I have been different since then. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I have been really different since I received that message.
Wow. And you were always so full of love. You must just be. They're just full of. Go ahead, Sharon.
It is a vicarious lesson that soul was able to communicate with you or through you. So I thank you and I thank that person. Sharon, I'm sorry I cut you off.
Oh, that's okay. I just was going to say it reminded me a little bit of the perspective from our holiday movie, It's a Wonderful Life, where he gets in so much trouble and it seems like he's not going to be able to get out of this trouble and everything is against him or not what he wants in life. And then, of course, the angel comes to show him what his life, what the world would have been like without him. And, you know, at the end of the movie, that perspective, and if you remember when he comes home, so he changed his state of consciousness and all of a sudden he loved everything, even the staircase knob, you know, that always fell off. He, you know, he loved every screaming child that was still just a state of consciousness, and saw as you know, what an honor or what an opportunity to love all of that.
Yeah, that was just so beautiful. It's, I mean, how perfect too, Ahmet, that you asked for that and got that channeling this time. Not only we're going to benefit, but for everybody that will hear this in the future, because that's such a powerful message. And it is a practice, right? It is a practice of loving everything, right? Ourselves and everything, and creating that love. And I mean, how would you like Ahmet, you said you're not the same, which I can imagine none of us will be. But do you want to say more about that?
Sure. I realize it more that I am very lucky right now that my higher self, my spirit, my soul, and my body, they're all one.
Mhm.
And I appreciate my body more. I appreciate my friends more. I appreciate you more. I appreciate the person that who calls me, maybe who didn't tell me the nice things to say. I love him because the soul who committed suicide just put me in a position where he was when he was watching over his life from the beginning. He was feeling everything. That's why he want to reincarnate. He want to reincarnate to be able to love everything.
Mhm.
So That's why I consider myself very lucky that I was able to find that knowledge when I'm still in my body.
Yeah, that we have a chance right now. Yeah. Wow.
You know, it's so powerful what you shared, Ahmet. It's so powerful. What happens as I'm feeling from that story, and what happens to me in general, is when we get that self-love, we have an incredible sense of being able to recognize and give value to those who are doing those little acts of their own self-love. We can see that. Close friend was talking with her brother, and the brother's really in a place where he has a lot of anger, and just asking a question. And I was there, I wasn't on the conversation, but I could hear, and the brother just started erupting in anger. And she said, "No, I can't talk this time. I need to end the call. This is not good for me. I need to end the call." And I just was so joyful for that person that they can say, "No, I love myself enough not to be vomited on or whatever." And so I see that in other places. It's just like we become more sensitive to the love that people are opening up to in themselves, and we can be there with that love and just stand there holding space and that love for them, to allow them to have that courage to make that next step towards truly loving themselves, even if they have concern about the term or whatever it is. We can be that kind of presence with them that opens them up to the courage of being who they are too.
Perfect. Yeah, because we really are providing a service. Because love is love, right? If we love
Right.
ourselves, we're spreading that love. Everything
Right.
comes through us, right?
Yeah.
So loving ourselves is in being service to humanity, ourselves and humanity. And by the way, Sharon, I want to thank you for reminding me of my favorite movie. I'm going to watch it again in a new way now and make it, as a reminder about how to love ourselves.
Yeah, it's
Maybe
the
I was
thing in A Christmas Carol. It's that change, that sudden change in consciousness.
Yeah.
You know, in that story, he does the same. The character does the same thing.
So we got an example of that, and then we have a reminder through all that of how important it is and how we'll see it differently and have the opportunity to now to choose differently. I really feel like, unless somebody has something they want to add, I feel like this is like a perfect spot to conclude. But if somebody has something else they want to add, I just feel like it's just feels perfect.
I was just gonna say that in reflection of what you opened with, talking about, starting in this life not feeling that loving yourself was even okay, let alone something that you were doing or capable of. I found in this really significant time of reflection for myself, losing my dad and just so much that's come up, is to look back for myself and see how much that my relationship with myself has changed over the years, and to see the proof of it working in my life, in my relationships with my siblings, dealing with the difficulties with my mom in this stage of her life, and then just the magnetization that self-love brings into my life, where love keeps coming back to me. And I know there were times in my life where I just didn't have that capacity. I wasn't aware of the value of myself and able to fully accept myself. And I was in my judgment of myself. And so it's a celebration too. It's a celebration to know that I'm absolutely worthy of love. And when I love myself, it's an invitation to everyone else to love me. That's more celebrating.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Especially in this time of celebration in December. Oh, that was beautiful, Blissa. Thank you I'm glad you added that.
Thank you for doing this, Candy. This is really powerful work.
Yeah, thank you all for being part of this. I think I feel so blessed just to be in you all's presence and have this time. So thank you all. And I hope everyone listening appreciates what you all have contributed. All right, so okay, thank you.